Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased, except ours. I'm not Colin.
And I'm not Craig.
Yes, the other guy, busy with work, whatever. Like he really works, as far as we know. Anyway, back to going back to the original monster movies. If you watched last week's episode, we didn't realize how much Dana loved The Bride of Frankenstein, so we're covering that, and the original Wolfman. Should we start with, which one do you want to start with first, The Bride of Frankenstein?
Dude, Bride. It came out before it.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. So, since you love this movie so much, tell us your thoughts about The Bride of Frankenstein.
Well, I always liked, especially about this one, um, is that it focused more on the monster. And you actually see him develop. Obviously, within the short time frame that these movies are filmed, but I liked that Doctor Frankenstein was he was sidelined for most of the movie, and really the focus was mostly on the monster. Obviously, he brought back the angry mob and everything, but you actually see the monster develop, where he gets captured, but then he breaks free. He actually tries to save someone. He's like getting rejected by you see him dealing with he's trying to be understood, and then he finally meets the old man and stuff. So I always, especially as a kid, I always loved this one because it had the monster as essentially the main character of it, and you got to, and it was for the time period, and it's definitely way more action based than the original one.
It's funny, because I never saw these before, but I know about the book, as we talked about, and it almost feels like it's more accurate to the book than the original, funny enough.
Oh yeah, especially takes like the second, like essentially the driving force of the second half of the book with the monster, the creature having Frankenstein make a mate for him. Obviously,
Well,
it was replaced with Pretorius in this, but
well, even the fact that he was on his own and just again, not everything's one to one, but him, you know, uh, going out into the world and like meeting people, learning how to speak and all that stuff, being hunted.
yeah,
Again, not one to one, but still, it's basic beats of what happened. Because the first one
yeah,
just focused on just the creation of it, really.
yeah, and yeah. The creature, like the monster, in the first one. Obviously, the iconic scene of him coming out and of when he's first introduced, and then like the ending. But up until that, it's he's really more for the second half of the movie. Where this one, I like that he was the driving force of the movie. And but my favorite scene, and I don't know if it was yours, but is when he meets the blind guy, the old blind man.
Oh yeah, it felt so nice. It's like, oh, thank God, I've been alone for forever.
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt
and
so bad for that guy. I was like, jeez.
yeah, and you feel bad for the monster too. Like he finally has a friend. He's all happy. He has a cigar. He's drinking with him.
Yeah, finally learned
Friend,
how to speak.
good, good, bad. Yeah, it was a very heartwarming scene, and even when the guy's praying, you see the monster cry too, and like it was just it was that's why like I always loved this one. This one was definitely the best Frankenstein movie. I would say it's up there for me for like Universal movies. I don't know exactly where I'd rank it, but it's definitely in my top three. But yeah, I always just I always love the I didn't love, but I like the opening scene too. Um, Especially with the maid, like how like when she's like taunting the monster, and he tosses the two people down, or the guy falls in. I always see the guy hilariously like falls in,
But
and then
this is just something because I know these movies are old. Hollywood is very different about 100 years ago. And I just thought it was funny how they had to give you such a huge recap for the original movie. The first movie's what, barely an hour? But I think the big thing is that sequels weren't really a thing yet, right? Colin would probably be able to answer this better, but I don't think sequels were a
Yeah.
thing. And this movie came out 4 years after the original, so in their mind, oh, people probably have never even seen the original. We got to make sure they're caught up to date with the story. Now we're getting sequels like 40 years later, and we're just supposed to be okay with it.
They're essentially giving you like a trailer review of the first one in the beginning of this one.
Yeah, just make sure you're all caught up. Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking like the new Beetlejuice sequel, right, that came out, I think almost 40 years to the day after the original. We were supposed to, yeah, whatever. I seen the original. I just find it kind of funny how how different it is. Back then they don't really expect you to see the original. They want, movies are more self-contained as opposed to now.
Yeah. I like too. It was like there was there's more action. Like the monster like kills more people in this, but I like how even in the first scene, like when the guy falls in, they show the guy falling in, and then the monster, and also why this one I think is better as well. Not only just the story and the focus on the monster, but also this one brings in music. The first one had no music in it. Same with like Dracula, but this
Yeah.
one actually introduces the music. So like in the beginning, where it's like the guy falls in, into the hole in the monster, and you see the monster's arm, and it's that like dint, 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 like it's that slow little creep, and then um, and then when he like actually drowns the guy, and like they don't even show it fully. They just show him putting him under, and then it cuts to that owl, and you hear just the monster growling, and then that's it. Like I just appreciate that about these old movies. Like it's like, all right, you get it. We don't need to
Yeah.
glorify it.
Oh yeah, because that's the thing now with movies. I feel like they really try to. I understand sometimes they need to maybe make you uncomfortable, but I feel like we're way past that. They just want to like they want to relish in the violence.
Well, I
They
mean,
get a
was
sick
it
appreciation for it.
what was it? I was talking about this recently with a couple friends actually. We were talking about like horror movies, and it's fitting that we were talking about like this and like how these old ones like they need to show everyone everything. It was, but like you were just saying like, but like the movie Terrifier, like its whole purpose is just to be as gross and as possible. Like I'm like, what is the point of this?
Oh yeah, Colin was talking about that. I think he was going to see the third one. You remember he told me about it. I was like, it's like, why are you watching this?
Yeah, how are they making it? It's like the Saw movies. Like they're not interesting. It's just all a way for someone to like how much blood do you need to see, or like what is it? I don't know. I just personally, it's like it's not about the killing. Like
Well, especially this one. Like when you said it's your favorite, I can kind of see why. Maybe it was really the ending that kind of made me see that. Okay, I kind of see why it's your favorite. It's kind of like sad at the end.
yeah, it's tragic. Yeah, I mean, like you obviously you feel conflicted at first, because he kills the two people, and those were the parents. I don't know if you caught it, but those are the parents of the daughter that he
Yeah.
accidentally drowned in the first one. So he kills them, and then he wanders off, and then he ends up saving this girl that was out with the with the sheep, and then he gets shot, and then he's getting chased, and then as he's getting chased, he drops the boulder on the two guys, and then they capture him. He breaks out. He goes on a rampage, uh, and then then he meets the old guy and everything. So it's like it's just like I always like this one just because the focus on the monster and like you feel conflicted with him, but especially the scene with the old guy too. It's like, oh, he's just he's clearly built
He,
different. But,
well, he was alone. Like they treated him like a monster. He acted like a monster, right? But
yeah,
even those killings too, that you could say, well, he killed people. But at the same time, it's like that. If you ever read like classic mythology where someone gets killed, it's like that tragic misunderstanding.
yeah,
They don't understand each other, and someone gets killed in the process, and it's supposed to be tragic, not I don't know how to explain it because you read classic stories, someone gets killed, it's always they tragically misunderstood. He swung and he missed and stabbed the other person. He didn't mean to kill him.
yeah. He's being hunted too. But like, I also like that scene too. I like the when they chain him up, and then and then the chief of the police or the inspector, like he's talking to them, like, oh, no worries, it's just a lunatic, we got him. He
Yeah,
just
breaks
he
out
comes
immediately.
he just comes walking right back out to and everything. Yeah, and then um yeah, you had the monster just trying to find his place in the world. Then you had the other major plot point, which was different from the book, where Dr. Pretorius, who was Frankenstein's like old professor at the university, taught like philosophy. Um, he was another mad scientist, and his whole thing is he created the homunculi.
See, I never
Like
knew that was a thing because I always I'd actually never heard of that word before until I saw Smiling Friends, where they keep saying, "Yeah, I was a little homunculus." I thought they were just making up a word, so I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that was an actual
yeah,
thing."
yeah, and he made he comes to Frankenstein after he hears about everything, and um and he's like, oh, I made my own creation from seed, and um the little. I always thought that little scene was charming too. He has the like chess pieces, the king, the queen, the bishop, like, and then like the little effects of like the king trying to get out and
Yeah.
stuff. Uh, he like picks him up and he puts the tea back on him. Um, yeah, I mean those are there's like the little charming things of the movie like that, for it, but yeah, and then the ending, he finally they make him the bride, and she rejects Frankenstein. So even at the end, like he gets rejected by the person who was made for him, and then even he's like, "You go," he tells them to Frankenstein and Elizabeth, like, "You go, we deserve to die," and blows them all up.
I know. Because that to me is like it felt, like the tragic ending. He was just, mistreated. Just he didn't wasn't necessarily evil. Just misunderstood. Wanted to, he saw when he was with the old guy. He was not a monster. He there was hope for him, and then he's like, "This is my life. I guess just kill me."
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too, is like the bride herself. And I'm sure I know you're not like a huge Universal monster fan, but yeah, I'm sure you've seen on pictures or like anytime advertisement, or if you've gone to Universal Studios, and she's always advertised like she's this very popular, or like I feel like the movie, like the title and like her look is obviously iconic, but I feel like the lore about her is bigger than she actually was
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
the movie,
yeah,
because
yeah.
she's and like, because that was something that always bugged me just a little, was that like she's always advertised at the forefront, like with the Universal monsters, and it's like it's not like she got a sequel, or like she had her own story. She it was like in the last 5 minutes, and then rejected the monster. You know, I guess just being more of a fan, I was just, it always bugged me. I'm like, she's always like, obviously she has the iconic look, but I just always thought, like she's always advertised more than what she turned out to be, because like, Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, even the Creature, they all had their own separate set of movies, you know.
Yeah, because I
But
know her look was iconic, and I think everyone's seen her look. But like you're saying, yeah, she shows up the last 5 minutes, and that's the thing too. I thought she would have been in the movie sooner. Again, just
yeah,
based on the cultural perception of her, but no, she was at the very end.
she didn't even like talk or anything. She just like yelled.
See, this is,
She
I
just
mean,
screamed at him.
I did get a bit of a chuckle where how the monster's kind of like deformed and ugly, and then she's like, basically like a normal looking woman.
Yeah, just with really frizzled hair.
I know it's just how they want to make it, not as ugly, but it just kind of gives me a chuckle where, he's like
Yeah.
this poor, disgusting creature, and then they got her just, oh, your hair's a little funky.
I, I did like the intro too, where it's Mary Shelley talking with two guys, and she's like recounting her own story. I
Yeah.
did like that little nod to her. Like they introduced her in the beginning as well, and she's like, "Oh, they misunderstood. It's about man trying to play God."
Was it the same director who made the first one?
I think so.
Because
So,
it must be like
what was his
commentary
name?
in the first movie.
Yeah. It's directed by
This is the first instance of
James
meta
Whale.
humor? Dude, he broke the fourth wall just like
Um,
Deadpool.
oh yeah, he did the Invisible Man too, along with Frankenstein.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, like older Hollywood too. Like you didn't just work for whatever movie would give you the, or studio whatever give you the movie. You'd work for a studio and they'd say make this, and like, all right, I'll make it. I think it was definitely more business like than it is now. Or I probably, I don't know, maybe that's not exactly correct, but you know what I mean. Where people are more
Mm-hmm.
loyal to the studio versus freelancing.
So, like the first one, there was some. I don't know if you read up on it, but there's like some censorship stuff with it too.
Oh, I mean, I imagine a lot of that's like the killing stuff, right?
It actually was more in terms of the dialogue.
Ooh.
The they were objected. Some of the lines originally like were Henry is like comparing his work to like that of God more, I guess, and then there was um and there was supposedly supposed to be like a planned shot of the monster running through. Like, remember when he runs through the graveyard and you see like the Jesus on the crucifix, or not the yeah, he's on the cross,
Mhm.
crucifix, cross. Apparently, there was supposed to be a shot of the monster attempting to like pull him off of the cross. Like so there, yeah, and then there was also some, like you said, there was some, I guess, additional murders they had objected to as well. Um, and like I guess Whale wanted to have like I guess more murders in it, but they overruled him on it. So like there was some cuts to it and stuff like that. Um, but yeah,
Well, yeah, just it's a different time period now. Like because that's because people talk about
well, if it was
movies getting
If it was Zack
censored, right?
Snyder, I was gonna say if it was Zack Snyder, he would have had the monster crucified.
Well, 'cause when people think of censorship, they usually think of the studio saying this will make us more money. Well, this is more of a cultural like, okay, let's not be gross and grotesque. Let's try to keep things family friendly.
Yeah, there was, and that's what I appreciate, I guess, more with these movies too. Is like it seems that there was some moral line to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you couldn't just, it's like a big deal. Like, those old, see those old sitcoms, like, even a married couple is sleeping in separate beds.
Didn't they say it was it the Flintstones or the Jetsons were like some Hanna-Barbera cartoon were the first one to have a married couple sleeping in the same bed?
Yeah, yeah, it's like, yeah, I appreciate that more, like more being on the safer side instead of like now it's just like they show everything, you know,
I know, it was like nothing left to the imagination
especially,
anymore.
yeah, go watch Game of Thrones, they have everything. Just like why? Uh,
Well,
I don't
clearly
know.
we're not the demographic.
Yeah. I mean, it's like these movies. Like I when like as a kid, it's funny now. Like I watched them older, and it's like I actually now just appreciate the style and like how simple they were, and like more is less with these movies. Like you don't, you get the idea, you get what they're trying to portray. You know, everything is, they don't treat you like an idiot with like, they have to just dump some exposition, um, and stuff like that. Like I was just fighting this one. They have like a bit of a recap of the first one,
But yeah,
but
I think that's just more of a older Hollywood thing because see, because remember,
well,
I remember seeing like the facts for King Kong where the sequel came out the same year because they were saying, well, people aren't going to remember if we don't come out with the sequel in the same year.
yeah. Well, and also too, it's like we have to remember as well. It's like we could go on YouTube and
Yeah.
watch clips of the previous movie and get the entire, you can go online and Google, you can look at the plot and be like, or get, you can go like Spark Notes and get summaries, so like but back then it's like you would have
You
to,
saw
unless
it as
they're
like word of
playing it
mouth,
at
or
every theater, yeah,
yeah.
or if you like they're playing it at a theater every Halloween, which so like that again, like it's not the same as today where it's like you have characters that they only serve as like the exposition people. But yeah, but no, with this, yeah, this one I always as a kid I always loved this one more than the first because it had the monster and him. They actually have like more of a character arc for him where he actually develops um and everything like that. But in this one, now watching it again, I still appreciate it, and it's definitely and also too, like I guess initially it was very it was successful and had good reviews, but now it's like highly regarded as like one of the like one of the like in few instances where the sequel's better than the original, and it's like highly regarded as like one of the best sequels. Um, so it does it. I am, I guess, in more the um, popular opinion where it is held in a high regard. Um, and it is, I would say it is better than the first one. Like obviously the first one's iconic, but this one, I think is better overall than the first one, especially because you get more. Like I said, it's more action based. It's things. It seems to like it's weird saying that the first one dragged, but it really didn't. But compared to this one there's a lot more happening, which I like.
Yeah, like I said too, I like that's closer to kind of the idea of the book where, trying to play God's bad idea, and they make the bride and even she rejects him. It's all tragic. Yeah, because
Yeah,
the first one's more about Dr. Frankenstein and doesn't really punish him as much, where this one, again, they don't really punish him either, but at least you look more at the monster and kind of, his side of the story.
yeah. Was there anything about this one you didn't like?
Not really. I mean, the only thing is, these are much shorter movies, but
Yeah,
also that was just part of the time period too. Because I feel like with some of these movies, they don't really get a chance to drag. It's only an hour, maybe hour 10 minutes. So even if
yeah,
it's not the because these are older, maybe not. It's not for everyone, but at the very least, I don't feel like you can be too bored with them. It's not like some
yeah.
movies now where they're 3 hours. And it's like, oh my god, this feels like 6 hours.
Like Dune, Spice. Nah. But yeah, I always liked in these ones and definitely you probably you'll see it um not only in the next movie we'll talk about, but also the start of from the first one too, Frankenstein, the angry mob. Like obviously, it's been like it's like a kind of a trope now. And like I know the Simpsons made fun of it and stuff with the angry mob and stuff, and like this one again, the angry mob, and then you see it in other ones. That's definitely a constant thing in the Universal movies going forward was the angry mob rallying, the angry mob mentality.
But this is where I feel like I know it's people think it's a movie thing, but I do feel like it's not just the movie thing. Where this is going into like historical stuff, but back then, towns were close. People knew their neighbors better. So when people got riled up, it was easier to like, hey, my neighbor's riled up. I'll see what's going on. Now, if there's an issue, people don't know their neighbor's name. So how could you even get riled up and form an angry mob? As
Yeah,
silly as that might sound.
your neighbor like. Yeah, your neighbor could be getting murdered in the street, and you'd end up reading about it, on your phone a day later, 2 hours later,
Well, my
even though it
neighbor got
happened
murdered.
right
I
in
never
front of you.
knew.
Oh wow,
Sucks, my
it's on our
neighbor.
street.
It's like, it's really it's in our driveway, the front door. Oh, that's why the cops are there.
Yeah. But that's another thing I liked about these movies, like the old settings, like the old towns and stuff, and like, yeah, I like that movies, like you're saying, like that, yeah, everyone knows each other in the town and stuff like that. I always like appreciate that, but these like older movies and stuff like that. just that whole like communal. People actually like took care of each other, and now it's like there's like no sense of that.
I not to get too off topic, but that's part of the reason why I love It's a Wonderful Life.
I was gonna mention It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, everyone knows. And then you see just George Bailey how much he meant to everyone.
Well, because it was the first thing, yeah, the ending of the movie, and you get to see at real time throughout the movie too, getting to know all the characters.
Yeah. Oh.
They don't make movies of societies like they used to anymore.
Nope. And I don't know if you noticed, or the guy who played Renfield makes another appearance again. I don't know if you picked up on it. He he
Which
was
one?
he was, I think, Carl was his name. He was one of the the goons that Pretorius hired to go get a dead body, and then he was the one that he's like, oh, we need a fresh body. He goes and strangles the woman in the street, and then Frankenstein like beat him
Yes, no,
with the
yeah,
torch, and then he tossed him off at the end.
yeah. I
Yeah, that
looked up
guy.
his
That
picture. I'm like, yeah, I remember now.
like if you watch all the Universal movies, that guy like appears in all of them as like a side character. I think it wasn't like uh, was it Frankenstein meets the Wolfman? Um, like the whole town arrives after the Wolfman kills someone, and then you hear the howling, and then that guy's at the front of it. He goes, "Oh, it's a wolf!" Like, yeah, it's just funny. You see like the same reoccurring people in it. Like you could tell who had a contract with Universal.
Well, it's funny too with
But
Dracula because he has like that crazy look on his face, and this one he looked a little more normal, so it wasn't like I mean, like in Dracula, he always looked like he was hearing stuff, like people were living in his walls.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, but this, but you know, I know, with this one, it's like there isn't like too much to say but I just genuinely, really always like this one. It's definitely up there for the old Universal movies. I think like most of the fans would agree it's definitely the best Frankenstein movie of the old ones. It might honestly be the best Frankenstein movie of all the iterations of him. Um, but it's definitely one of the best, if not the best, overall Universal movie. And so it's in, like I said, it's in my top three um, of all of them.
I can see it. All right, I can see it.
You can see it. That's it.
Well, like I said, I like it. It's definitely better than the other two that we saw,
you know,
in my opinion. And I guess spoilers. We were also reviewing the Wolfman. I like them more than the Wolfman as well.
which that one is probably another one of my favorites. I guess that's a good segue going into my personal favorite classic Universal monster, and I would, I think I would put this one in my top three as well. Just out of my own personal love for the Wolfman, but we're talking about the 1941, the Wolfman. Um, so technically, this wasn't the first werewolf movie because you had the Werewolf, Werewolf of London. I believe that was in 1935. But this is, I know this one is recognized. Um, you know, obviously over that. So with the Wolfman, we're introduced to um, our first. I I just want to double check if Werewolf of London, I don't think that's Universal technically, but yeah. So like the Wolfman, another iconic Universal monster. I would say the big one of the big three: Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. Um, but Craig, what did you think of the Wolfman?
It's kind of hard. I mean, it's hard, but I mean, I feel like when I watch this movie, I feel like I've already seen it before because I guess it's such an iconic movie that every movie would copy it or have some references to the original Wolfman story. So seeing it, it's like, okay, now I know why they did this in other movies or why they did that in other adaptations. That being said,
Yeah,
though, I did like it. It's
yeah,
short, but it's a classic. People copy it for a reason. It's a good classic story. It's the Wolf Man.
yeah, yeah. So technically, Werewolf of London. Werewolf of London was produced by Universal Pictures. I was just confirming this with my research people. Um,
It buzzed you in your
but
ear.
yeah, Kowalski analysis. So yeah, the Werewolf of London came out in '35, but obviously the Wolfman is usually recognized as the classic werewolf character. Um, which Werewolf of London's a good one, but the Wolfman is iconic. So yeah, with that, I always personally like my favorite like monsters like in like horror genres or werewolves. I always thought they're cool, and it started way back as a kid because I saw the Wolfman and I thought he was the coolest of the Universal ones. I'd put him, then Frankenstein. Dracula's iconic. Vampires are iconic, but I would personally I like the creature. Like I think he's cooler looking. He's more he's unique. Um, but yeah, I so my like love for werewolves in the genre, those kinds of movies started with the Wolfman. Um, I always liked his look. I know some people might still think it's goofy, man, and really, hairy makeup and stuff like that. But I always thought he looked great. The and I like too. Um, and I guess maybe because of this movie, I view werewolves like a bit different. With like, I, I feel like you have the. I guess to go on a bit of a side tangent, just werewolves in general. I feel like when it comes to werewolf people who enjoy werewolf movies, you have a fan. They're like divided on the design. I feel like you get fans that like the more wolf looking type of werewolves, like the one from Van Helsing in 2004, the ones from Underworld, where they're more kind of upright, more wolf like looking. Where I like this one, because with werewolves, I always kind of liked the the blend. And like this one, and like I said, it stems from this of the Wolfman, which I always just thought sounded cooler anyway. Um, and and I always like the idea that you could see a bit of both, especially the 2010 remake of the Wolfman. I will personally say that's probably the best. Um, I think it's the best werewolf design to date. That's still my favorite one because it got a more modernized look. He's more menacing and stuff like that. Where this one obviously came out 41, so they were limited. But still, it was a good, but it still stayed true to this look where, he still looks somewhat like a person. He's not as big, but he has that cool look to him. But this one was the first um, Universal movie, if I'm not mistaken, or at least character wise, that did not have a direct literary source. So Frankenstein, you obviously had the book. Dracula had the book. I believe The
Even the
Invisible
Invisible
Man is a
Man.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah, The Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera, is based off of a. Is, is it a book or a play?
I don't know
I
about
think
the
there's.
play.
Um, but again, they all had direct literary sources. Um, and I mean, I guess you would count Werewolf of London, but no one really counts that. So again, but the werewolves, these are the ones that did not have direct literary, sources for it. Obviously, you have the mythology behind it. If you want to go back to the Greek mythology with Lycan, and then you have obviously like Germanic lore with it and stuff like that. But there's no direct book for it on it, so they kind of had to make up their own lore with it, which I thought was cool. Um, and fun fact, I don't know if you noticed this, Craig, but in this movie, there was no shot of the full moon.
Oh, I didn't. I just assumed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, because so the first shot of the like where the full moon, I think they had it in Werewolf of London and also in the sequel to this, which is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, which is one of my personal favorites. That one has the shots of the full moon where you see it and then he starts transforming. Um, but this one doesn't, and they have the famous like poem that they made up for it. Even a man is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfsbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Um, that was the famous one for it. But I like this one too because I think it's like he's truly like a tragic character. Um, like with like Dracula, he's evil. I know the book is more, again, he's just more evil. Like I like and that's also part of the reason why I like the Wolfman and the monster, Frankenstein's monster more, is because they're more tragic characters. They're not just mindless, they're not just evil for the sake of it. But which this one brings back our boy Bela Lugosi in this.
And I was in all these
and
movies.
and his character's name is Bella.
Oh yeah, that's what I noticed too. Like, even bother like giving him a name. Yeah, it's Bella.
Yeah, so he was in it. He was the werewolf that bites Lon Chaney Jr., whose dad. I'm not sure if you knew this, Craig, but Lon Chaney's dad was the Phantom of the Opera, the original
Yeah,
one.
that I wouldn't have known.
I think they called him like the Man of Many Faces or something like that. Yeah, so his dad was the famous Phantom of the Opera one, not the one that Claude Rains, who plays Lon Chaney's dad in this, he did another one, and it was okay, but yeah, but it's funny too. Like in this one, you have the he gets the cane, and then they introduce the pentagram with the gypsies and stuff like that. But I always found it not funny, but interesting that Bella, the werewolf who bites Lon Chaney, is just like a dog. But Lon Chaney takes the form of the Wolfman. I always found that interesting. Like, which
Well,
fun
I
fact?
just contribute that's more of the time period. I mean, they can't really get a. I don't think they could train a wolf to be on set.
Yeah. Or also, it might have been too expensive to do another guy in makeup. Like, but this one, that fun fact, I think that dog that was playing the wolf, I think was actually Lon Chaney's dog in real life. So instead of like getting like a trained dog, like his dog, he just got his dog, or which I thought was always cool, um, for it. But yeah, this one's like definitely takes it, is different. Um, where I mean, he's not totally innocent. He's going after I think she was engaged in this one, I believe.
Well, yeah, there was like that back and forth of like, oh, I don't know if I should, and then they
They're
kind of fall in
flirting,
love.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
know what
but
you mean. But it's not as bad as like he doesn't deserve. He turns to a werewolf, starts killing people, and ends up dying.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. So you have Claude Rains as his dad, who they have this strained relationship. He's coming back to Wales, after he spent some time studying in America and stuff, and he's come back because of his brother. His brother's died, and him and his dad have the bit of a strained relationship. I don't think they ever mentioned anything about the mom at all. I think, if I remember correctly, it was just she just I don't know what happened. Um, Maybe they just couldn't cast someone, but
That was the funny thing too when they
um,
mentioned Wales because I feel like all these werewolf movies usually take place in England or Scotland. I mean, I think people forget Wales is a country sometimes. Not that there was some shade at Wales, but I think people just at least in America, they're not very
Yeah,
well versed geographically.
yeah. The animals are cooler than the country. Let's put that out there.
But I just feel like in these movies, it's usually like in the Scottish Highlands or like somewhere in England.
Yeah, but what did you what did you like about the Wolfman?
I I just thought it was, it sounds cliche, it's good, but I think it was good. A lot of movies copy this simple formula, for a reason that worked well. It was tragic at the end, which I kind of like tragic endings.
Yeah,
Like something that
yeah,
happens and the guy is like, I know, I must suffer I can't be going around killing people. Let them get me.
yeah. Wait, you know what it is too is, and I think like where the tragedy in these characters works better than like because you know what it is it's I think with today you have a lot of movies where it's just pessimistic and cynicism for the sake of it. Like these movies are actually just tragic, and it's not
Like good
like
people dying.
yeah, it's just the guy gets cursed, and he's just like torture. Which I always said this to my dad, and we always laugh about this that Lon Chaney was perfect casting because he always in every like he nailed that like tormented soul look. Like in he always just his face like he just I don't know what it was like he was perfect for this. I mean, unfortunately the guy could never get out of this role. I mean, I know he loved playing it and he always felt that like it was his child. So he loved the role, but he never could escape the Wolfman. But I always like thought he was perfect casting, where he just looks like the tormented soul. Like it was perfect for it, and he does a good job with it too. Um, and the thing that we always laughed at, and I'm sure anyone that is a avid fan of these, um, the big thing was the Wolfman's wardrobe. No matter in every movie, and if you ever watch other ones, Craig, no matter he the guy could be naked when he transforms, but somehow when he's the Wolfman, the next scene he's gonna have that black shirt and long pants with him. He always we always would laugh at that because he always, no matter where he transformed or what he was wearing, he always somehow had time to put on a nice black collared shirt and then go roam.
Them's the rules. That's what we do.
Yeah, I always love that. Like it was just part of the charm. Like no matter what, he always had to get that black shirt on with the pants. And this one, I liked too that the transformation the first time he transforms, you only see his feet. Um, I think part of it was, obviously the big reveal. It's more shocking, but two, think it was like in terms of like the makeup and stuff like that. It might, I think the director was like, it's better that we just show him instead of like, obviously like with the transformation for this one because, Dracula didn't transform, Frankenstein didn't transform, but this one was different where he did transform. So I think it was more along the lines of like, it would have taken so long for them to show him fully transforming like bit by bit, which they eventually show in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, where you see his face transform. I know in this one you see it revert back. The two times that he reverts back, but I forget how long Lon Chaney would sit in the makeup chair for it, but they had to singe the hairs and stuff. Like it was a very long process for it. Um, but I always just loved his look. But and then I did like the for this one, and it's also just for all the ones that they have that and you see it now, but that classic kind of like orchestra background music to it. Um, but I always love the soundtrack for this, like especially when he transforms. It's like dun, 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 and then he's like moving in the woods and stuff, and it's like dun, 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 dun. It's like picking up as he's moving. I always love that that soundtrack to it, and this one too. Um, the set for when he's wandering the woods as the Wolfman, it has the unexplainable amount of fog on the ground, but
No, no, no,
and then
no,
the
no.
the trees, and I always love that set design of it, which you saw over the evolution of horror movies. They always had those. Then you start seeing them now, like the influence of it, like they have that eerie fog and stuff, and then the full moon setting over, um, and stuff like that. Where this one kind of kickstarted that, where he really sets the eeriness, and then you see his feet moving and stuff like that. I'm as Colin would say to you, I'm splurging out.
Well, when
Uh,
people like think of the fog, yeah, it's a bit cliched, but at the same time, like, you ever been in fog? Like driving in fog, being out in fog, it can
yeah,
be creepy not being able to see too far ahead of you. So I can see why people do it. It
yeah,
is creepy. People who actually go in nature.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of movie reviewers now, like, they probably don't go outside all that much, so they don't really see what's the big deal with fog. You can't see that's
yeah,
the point.
yeah. But yeah, I love the set design for it. The eeriness and stuff like that. Um, where Frankenstein and Dracula kind of did it with the castle and stuff, but this one had like the like that set that he kept coming back to and everything for it. Um, I also like in this one too, like they set up like things that you know pay off in the end, and like they introduce the cane and everything that he uses to kill the wolf, and then his dad uses it to kill him. Um, you know, or the scene he can't even like be in the church. He's like sweating and just runs out. Like those old things, and then they have the gypsy travelers, and um, I think there was a scene that was cut. They had, um, I think they're supposed to have like a bear or something like that, and he was supposed to like fight the bear, but I think they cut that scene, which they brought in the 2010 remake. Not that the Wolfman fought the bear, but they brought the bear as like a little nod to that. Um, but
But yeah, those are things it's probably products of its time. Nowadays you just
yeah,
put in a CGI bear or whatever, but back then you probably had to get a real bear. And I don't think they wanted to have a bear on set.
yeah, and it's funny too. Is like the first kill, like when he goes out um and the guy, the grave digger, and the guy's just like smokes a cigarette, and then you hear the you hear the howl, and then he like comes up and jumps at him, and it's like it shows him like biting his neck, which they didn't even show with Dracula, and like Frankenstein they kind of showed it, and like this one, I always loved it's like they show it, he kills the guy, and then they come back. All the you hear the howl, which it's funny when they show the Wolfman, it's like he's making different noises, like it's clearly Lon Chaney trying to make noises. But and then you hear the wolf howl, and then all the town folks come running out. What was that? I think it was a wolf. And they all, but they always, they always said like, in other Wolfman movies too, it was like, he killed the guy, and it's like, obviously they don't show anything. It's like, oh, like his jugular was, like severed, or like, it was bit
Yeah,
like
it's like
a
horrific. Oh my
wolf.
god.
Yeah, but clear. Yeah, he didn't even bite the guy. Clearly, it was like he just put his head in the way, like it would look like that from the camera. But they never showed it. It was just like, oh, this guy's like jugular was severed. Like must have been a wild animal. Uh, but yeah, this one. I think this one. I would put this one, Bride of Frankenstein, and I don't know if we'll watch it, but Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, because that had both of them in it. It was like the first crossover, and they fight at the end, which this was before Marvel and everything now, where everything's a crossover and nothing's original. But I would say this one, just because it's the original Wolfman, and then Bride of Frankenstein, not in any order, and then Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. But well, what was it too? Like, I was just thinking of the black shirt, and I think he wakes up. Did he when he after the first time he transformed? Did he wake up in a different shirt, or did he wake up in the black shirt?
I don't remember to be honest.
I could have
Let's just say he woke up
sworn.
in the black shirt.
I just always love that. It's it was just it was just a continuous trope for the Wolfman. He always had to get the black shirt.
That's his
Because
thing, man. That's his thing.
when he first transforms, like Lon Chaney's like freaking out and like whatever, he looks and he's like, oh, there's no hair or whatever, and then they look, he takes it off and he has like the white tank top under with his like pants pulled up to his nipples, and then it shows him transforming. He has just a full black shirt. I'm just picturing that, like that'd be a funny skit. Like the wolf, it's like he transforms, like all right, and it's first thing he goes to the closet, he just picks out a shirt, looks, fixes it, and he's like, all right, now I can go kill.
Perfect.
Yeah, but yeah, I always really like this one. I know it's probably the highest rated Wolfman movie. I would say rightfully so. In terms of like story and everything, and I think this one is always a highly disregarded werewolf movie. I was like, it's kind of like I said, I know Werewolf of London, but this one is usually Werewolf of London kind of gets more forgotten, where this one is usually more assigned as like the um, forefather of like the modern werewolf movies and like werewolf tropes that are put into them for
Because
it.
I've only heard of the American Werewolf in London, so I assumed. I'm guessing that's a remake.
I think because that one started the really kind of more groundbreaking transformations, like where they show the body, like with the animatron, the
Yeah,
makeup
like
and
yeah,
the guy actually
CG
shifting.
and
I mean, it was groundbreaking at the time, and it's funny enough. The guy who did American Werewolf in London, Rick Baker, did the makeup for the 2010 Wolfman. So that
oh,
guy, yeah, so that guy, clearly knows what he's doing, because both looked phenomenal uh, for it. Which I think did the Wolfman. I think the Wolfman 2010. I know it didn't do. It really didn't do well. It's gotten the more time has passed, like it's people appreciate it more now, but it did despite like it being like a box office bomb. Yeah, the guy Rick Baker, they won Academy Award for best makeup for that movie actually.
yeah. 'Cause, people, they have to understand the time when things are made because obviously now it looks like that Wolfman disease, but at the time you have to understand that it was a. It's different. Like the standards are different. These are the pioneers. Like them doing something. It's first people laying the groundwork, trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. Did you see I don't think you ever did. You ever see the 2010 Wolfman?
No.
Well, just go quickly. Just look at his design. Just look at the Wolfman 2010 and look at his design, because it it's still my favorite werewolf design. It's definitely it definitely pays tribute to the original look, but like a more modernized where he actually looks menacing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's like that cross between wolf and man. Because yeah, I know what you're saying. Like some people want too much wolf, and I feel like the whole point is that he's like an abomination. He's supposed to be like a cross between wolf and man.
Yeah, I still think that's I just love that design, especially too because he's standing upright like a person. Um, but he's kind of like his legs are, not, he's more like on his hind legs where he's standing up like like he has like the wolf and he has the claw. I mean, that's still to me like the best. I know people love American Werewolf in London. Um, Another werewolf. I know The Howling is a highly regarded one. What was it? Stephen King, Silver Bullet was another popular one.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I saw that one when I was a kid.
Silver Bullet. Yeah, that was a good movie. I didn't like his design. The werewolf design, he kind of looked more like a bear. Like a
I
cross
don't
between a wolf.
remember too much besides I'm pretty sure I've seen it.
Yeah. The Howling, they looked more like wolves. Obviously the Underworld series, which I really liked. Their designs were cool because they kind of teetered on the line between like they looked more like wolves, but they kind of they weren't fully like just upright wolves. People were like the um, werewolves from the Van Helsing. Those were cool. So was Hugh Jackman without a shirt. That was cool. But yeah, I mean but it really all stems from the Wolfman. Like the popularity, it started there. Um, and then you had the big three with Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein. And then after this one, like I said, you then had Wolfman meets the Frankenstein, which starts the first crossover. And then they have like House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein, where you have all three in it. And then another one of my personal favorites, which isn't a horror movie, but it has all three of them in it, is Bud Abbott and Lou Costello Meet Frankenstein. Which is that's just a hilarious movie. That's another one I used to always watch. But it has all three of them in it. They brought back Bela Lugosi for it. Karloff didn't come back for it to do Frankenstein. They had a Glenn Strange do it, and then Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney also is the only fun fact. Lon Chaney is the only actor of the Universal ones to play the Wolfman every single time.
Yeah,
They
you're
had
saying
different
he was
people play.
dedicated.
Yeah, he did not like the idea of like someone else being the Wolfman, which I respect that. Um, but yeah, so he was the only one to play the Wolfman in every iteration or every movie after. Lugosi came back for that. Because I think, Lugosi played Frankenstein, Lon Chaney played they all kind of played Frankenstein. None of them were as good as Karloff because they all kind of did what people now think of like the monster. Like, he kind of hands are out. He kind of like slowly walks side to side. Where Karloff was like the one that you see now in modern Frankenstein movies, like where he actually moves like a person. He's mobile. He's active. He even talks and stuff like that. But yeah.
I was gonna say,
Uh,
obviously they wanted to do the Dark Universe, which crashed and burned very, very, very quickly. But they're remaking the Wolfman again. Supposed to
yeah, I
come out in
don't.
2025.
Yeah, but I think it's the same guy that did the newest Invisible Man, and it's like it's a different take on it,
Like a more
and
modern take.
yeah, because I think the Invisible Man, I didn't see that full movie, but I think it wasn't like the guy was himself invisible. They had like it was like a suit,
Yeah, he's
something like that. The guy was wearing.
like stalking this woman
Yeah.
who probably isn't worthy of being stalked, but
Now I saw they release. So I saw the trailers, and I don't know how I like feel about it. I really have to see the full design. Which, if what was put out there like was on display at this event to like the unveiling of it, if this is the design of the Wolfman, ugh, just ugh. Like look up the Wolfman 2025 design or like pictures, and because they had this like unveiling of it, and this is like I don't know if this is the final design. This might
wait,
just be a
this is
teaser,
wait.
but
Am I looking at this right? It looks like a crazy old man.
yep. hmm
I wonder why they got so much backlash. It looks like some crazy old man.
Yeah.
That is very embarrassing. They
If
should feel
that is the
ashamed of
final,
themselves.
now again, I'm not sure if this is the final look. This could
Well,
be like him like it seems like it's like a slow, like from what the trailer revealed, it's like, he's slowly turning into the creature, into the wolf, into the werewolf. But if that is like the main look, ugh, that is horrible. Like, you could say the 1941 like is, cheesy with the makeup and stuff, but it's iconic and it's a product of its time. But God,
that is
it's
embarrassing.
disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
And I think
That
you're trying
what
to
it
like, oh, maybe it's not the final one. They don't release that kind of stuff if it's not the final one or like the one you'll remember it for. That's embarrassing.
I look at this thing and someone goes, "Is that a werewolf or just a grumpy little goblin man with a long beard?"
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, if that's the like final look, like, oh God,
I did find
like
it funny though that
again,
apparently The Rock was supposed to be the
I,
Wolfman in the original Dark Universe. I just want to say that. But you stew over there.
you know what? I'm glad it failed. Apparently, Ryan Gosling was in talks to do this Wolfman.
He's literally me.
Apparently, but I think he backed out. But
Good choice.
but looking at this, right,
You can never
and
make a mistake.
the way Ryan Gosling, his whole transformation is him going from smiling just to that like 1,000 yard deadpan stare from like Blade
He's
Runner.
he's gonna have that jacket from Drive and just that's his transformation. He's transforming into
it's
me.
yeah, he just gets better looking as the movie. It's actually like a parody. Um, but so from what I gathered from the trailers, and based on this design, and thinking of like if it's the same guy that did the Invisible Man, where it's like more like this like different modern take on it, like I fear that it's gonna be like it's like a form of like rabies kind of a thing, and you know,
That's gonna be very realistic.
yeah, it's gonna be like he's like just turns into this wild man, like this rabid man, and it's like again, you're kind of missing the point. You don't, you know,
It's also based off the
um,
classic. These stories have existed for hundreds of years, thousands of years about werewolves. I mean, it's kind of based on those stories. To sit there and just like, yeah, let's make a realistic take. It's just boring. Like,
yeah,
what are
it's
you
the
really
same
gonna
guy who did
do?
the Invisible Man. This guy also did the first three Insidious, or oh, he worked on. He wrote. He's friends with James Wan, the director of Aquaman, Craig.
Oh, whoa.
And did James Wan also do Saw? I guess that's where he got his start. Um,
I know
you
people really
got
love
it.
that the new Invisible Man. I thought it was just okay. Like, I
I
just
didn't see it. I personally never. Yeah, I know. I never really cared for the Invisible Man. But yeah, not that I think he's like bad or anything. I always liked Frankenstein and the Wolfman. But see again, it's like, but see this one's like more like this like Moss's opening scene and themes on like domestic abuse. So I'm like, is this one going to be like some? Is the Wolfman going to be like that? Is it going to be some underlying theme that again it's just these people can always like attribute like with these horror movies, right? Like there's always some main theme under it. I mean, Dracula, I don't really, I guess it's just it was like commentary on society. But
we live in a
but I mean,
society.
yeah, I mean, both, Frankenstein is again, is a warning against the, man trying to play God, or, toying with nature when you shouldn't be, these underlying themes, but it's not like so deep, like where it's like, they're not real.
I feel like what you're. I think I get what you're saying. Like those older movies have like bigger, more universal themes, but these are very specific.
Yeah, it's not as yeah, like you're saying, like these grand themes. It's not as um,
So when I think
what's the
of those
right
stories,
word?
those are stories that people have been, similar kinds of stories have been told for thousands of years. Like you think of, the Greek mythology stories, those kinds of stories that last and that kind of have more universal appeal,
Yeah,
universal themes versus
yeah,
just,
yeah. Like
some crazy ex
you know,
stalking you. It's like, all right, whatever.
yeah, like the Wolfman, like the I guess kind of similar to Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the dual natures within the potential to be good and evil.
Yeah,
The
the
good
duality of a
versus
man.
evil. Yeah, yeah, or like Frankenstein, the horrors of man going above and beyond themselves. Test trying to play God or messing with nature. So those are just grand themes. It's they're simple. They get the point across, but it's not like we're the movie and you're shaping your characters to like fit. It's again, it's a simple message, but it's also about like the monsters and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's um, I just I fear for it. When I first saw that trailer, I saw like the teaser trailer. And I saw this. I was like, all right, it's a teaser trailer, whatever. They're not going to show too much. And then they showed this one. It's like, they showed him like punching through the window at her, and it's like his hand. It's like, it just looks like, someone like like he was chewing off his nails, and like he's like I'm afraid it's gonna be like he's afflicted by like rabies, or is it I,
Something
I
boring
just I just
of a
I just don't
dumb
have.
slasher.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, I don't blame
yeah.
you.
Unfortunately, out of my own sick curiosity, I'll probably go see it, but I'll probably walk out of the theater angry. Because it's just like, it's with the Wolfman. It's like he has an iconic look. Like I don't know. You just don't need to reinvent the wheel with some of these characters. Like,
Also, how many times can you remake these stories over and over again? I mean, I'm assuming this one's gonna have a more horror feel to it, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be probably the same basic plot beats, right? Some guy will get attacked. They'll see the inn, they'll see the pentagram, they'll get attacked, and then like, oh, that's weird. I got a scratch from this wolf that attacked me, and then they go in and kill. Like I
yeah,
doubt we're gonna be
because
breaking new ground.
it says in the premise, it's family man Blake relocates from San Francisco to Oregon with his workaholic wife. Oh God! And daughter Ginger, after inheriting his child home left vacant following his estranged father's mysterious disappearance and presumed death. So I'm guessing we can assume that his dad is the one that probably attacks and bites him. Copying the 2010 Wolfman. They barricade themselves in the house. Yeah, because it says the family is attacked by a werewolf that claws Blake's arm. They barricade themselves inside the home, but soon Blake begins to transform, jeopardizing the safety of his wife and daughter. So I'm assuming if he got clawed, it's going to be more like. I mean, I know other werewolves, are, that's not uncommon. Like, it doesn't have to be a bite. Sometimes it can be,
Yeah, like a scratch.
they're a scratch or something. But the way that Wolfman looks, it's going to be like,
I don't know, but he's gonna like
like
lock you in your basement and
yeah, it's gonna be like a rabies like kind of thing, and like he's gonna be like slowly transforming into a rabid man. You
what's
know,
that? I forget the name of them. What's that movie? The in the South, Deliverance. Movie Deliverance, the
uh,
Wolfman edition
well,
from
that's
the
if Zack
banjo.
Snyder's directing it.
Well, I'm saying he looks like some domestic, like demented creature that belongs in like the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, like in those open world games, like where you go and explore the map, and then you stumble upon this weird, family in the woods. Like, what was it, GTA? Right?
Yeah, like yeah, and like probably Red Dead
Red
2.
Dead.
But I'm just
Yeah.
thinking too, some of these stories, I feel like they belong in certain places. I don't think America is the best place to tell a werewolf story. We don't have werewolves in America. That's a European story. It belongs in Europe, whether it's obviously England or Scotland or wherever. You could be in France, whatever, Germany, but you know what I mean. Like I just don't feel like it belongs in America to tell a werewolf story.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm just thinking of like American mythology. What is it? The like North American mythology.
Yeah,
You have like the Wendigo. You have the Wendigo. You have
Sasquatch, the
yeah
Mothman.
Sasquatch. Yeah, Mothman. Like you have more to different geographical regions. Like the Jersey Devil is one. Mothman is another. Um,
Like I said, we don't
yeah,
have as
Wendigo
much,
and
but
yeah.
that's going to include like Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, I mean, then if you go into like South, then you have to go like South America, and
Oh, yeah, the
well, I mean, if
Chupacabra.
well, yeah, well, yeah, and then, but then you have the different mythologies for like South American ones. Uh,
I was thinking more of
but
just like the U.S. specifically, but
yeah, but yeah, if you wanted to, because like the Chupacabra, um, that is that exclusively like is that Mexican?
I think it might be more Central American. But we got some of the desert, and you got New Mexico, we got part of Texas, Arizona. It could be in those states. Point is, like those are like if you were to have a story, I feel like it makes more sense in America. Like a werewolf, I feel like you
Yeah.
have to be in Europe for that kind of story.
Yeah, I mean, the chupacabra kind of goes throughout, like southwestern U.S. Goes in like Puerto Rico, the uh, uh, Spanish America, which is Mexico down all the way to like the most southern part of South America. So chupacabra varies, but the point is like the America the more popular one Sasquatch and like the Wendigo. Um,
Makes me think
but
those
but
I
like
feel like make
but the point you're
sense.
saying, the point you're it stands. It's usually a reflection of of the animals and the of the of that region and stuff like that. So werewolf. But again, the werewolf stems from what Greek mythology, and then it's like Germanic. It's been passed down from the throughout those regions and stuff with the different stuff. So,
Yeah, cause
but
imagine having like some guy fighting a dragon in the U.S. It would feel wrong. I feel like when you think of dragons, you think of medieval Europe. I guess
yeah,
I guess technically you could say in China too, but they have different kinds of dragons. I'm thinking of more the more European dragon.
yeah, like Smaug. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like it's just like it'd be like putting Loch Ness in any other area than Scotland.
Yeah, it's in I can't. I mean, our Great Lakes are too big,
Yeah,
but
Loch Ness at the
it's
Jersey
still.
Shore. Loch Ness in the Hudson Bay.
Oh yeah, all up in Canada. Oh God.
Probably die from pollution. But yeah. But back to the original. I know that they're doing that. They're also coming out. I don't know if you saw Nosferatu remake.
Yeah, Colin was excited for that.
I'm intrigued to see that. From the trailer and stuff, it looks like, especially since they haven't done a remake of it since the original, because that got like burned. Um, I'm intrigued to see that, and they have the guy playing Count Orlok, Skarsgård. Skarsgård. He's a Pennywise in the new It movies.
Yeah.
Um, and they also have Willem Dafoe in it. But no, I'm more intrigued to see that than I am for this Wolfman movie, because if that is what you're putting out, shame on
Oy
you.
vey.
Yeah, shame on you, because like, why are you even calling it the Wolfman at that point? Like,
I'm wondering if people get optimistic and think of the Sonic situation where people were so horrified by the Sonic CGI that they ended up like bullying the studio to change it. I'm not that optimistic, but maybe they could bully the studio to get a little more accurate Wolfman. Well, then the studios will say, well, you guys are just haters. You got toxic fans. You deserve to be punished with this horrible movie. And they complain when it doesn't do well.
yeah, well, this is what people get for not giving the 2010 one its proper due respect. Because I think
Well,
that was because I think that was. I don't know if that was they were trying to start the Dark Universe with that one, and bombed,
when they try
and
to start it with
then
Dracula Untold too.
yeah, which I mean, it was a different take on Dracula. It was like the him being Vlad the Impaler, and he was trying to like he took the powers on. He got drank the blood of the vampire so he could like defend his country, like more kind of honorable. And I'm like, I don't think you really need to. Dracula, you just make him a bad guy.
Well,
Like
didn't they
the
try to turn him into like a superhero? I've never seen the movie, but I feel like they tried to make him into a superhero.
well, I mean, his powers were nuts in that, but I saw it. It was more. It wasn't scary. It was like action based. He's going up against like an empire trying to like take over his country and stuff like that, and he takes on the army by himself, and he's trying to like battle like being a vampire, like but yeah, he was more, like you said, he actually was more of like a hero in that. Which it's like, I don't know. You don't need to justify him. Like Dracula, I feel like in most iterations is he's just a bad guy. Maybe he has a love interest, like, but generally he's just a bad guy. Like, of the big three, he's not a tragic character. Frankenstein's
No,
the
he's
monster,
a
and the
straight bad guy.
yeah, he's just but Frankenstein, and the Wolfman are set up to be tragic characters. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think I also like I think the Dark Universe set themselves up, like, I think they might have set themselves up to fail when they were trying to like. It seemed like they were trying to like directly copy Marvel, like cash in on like, oh, we're setting up our own universe. And it's like, I think with these movies, like, you don't, it's fine to have them cross over, but if you don't connect them, it's okay. And it's what are you gonna have? Just like a team of monsters?
Well, yeah, just because they did obviously cross over with Abbott and Costello, but that was more of a comedy. It was a completely different kind of crossover they were trying to accomplish. This one, again, trying to make a Marvel, like, who are they going to team up to fight? Galactus. I mean, I don't even know who they would team up against. And they
Yeah,
tried to
that's
have
the
Nick
thing.
Fury with Dr. Jekyll. Now, this could be a whole other discussion, like talking about the failures of the Dark Universe, but it's just a very bad idea from the outset.
Yeah, yeah. I know everyone really hates on the Mummy, the Tom Cruise one. I am the Rhino.
God, that one's coming out soon.
Oh God. But yeah, I mean, but to completely circle back to original point, the Bride of Frankenstein and the Wolfman, two of my all-time favorites. I love these movies. I still do. I think they're good movies. Obviously, again, products of their time, but they still are equally charming to me. and there's always the nostalgic factor for me. So, you know, I I will admit the Bride of Frankenstein and the Wolfman, they are, generally hailed as all time classics. They're still rated very highly for movies. But I'll also admit, like, I'm very biased with these, so it's different for me as opposed to someone like Craig watching these. But I still think that they hold up very well. Um, really good movies, and again, I just love them. They're all time classics, and you can see why. And it's cool to go back and watch them, and then you see like how you see the tropes that they set. Or you see the things that were in their movies become tropes, common tropes throughout other movies
The
that took from
iconic
them, and
scenes.
yeah. So, but yeah, these two of my top. Honestly, you could say I'll say my top four: Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and I would say Bud Abbott and Lucas Still meet Frankenstein, because I just look that one's funny and it has all three of them in that. But but yeah, I love these. And Craig, what'd you think of Bride of Frankenstein and the Wolfman?
Like I said, I thought they were good. It's kind of just weird, going back and seeing these movies after years of seeing them referenced and parodied to kind of see like the original. So I thought they were
Yeah.
well done movies.
Hmm.
Definitely better than all the slop we get today.
Well, yeah. Let's see you say that after you watch the Rock's newest movie, whatever that Santa one is, red one or
Okay. We're definitely gonna review that one. Like I'd rather watch The Wolf Man 8 times than watch the full first season of the Agatha Harkness show.
oh god, that thing that was so heavily advertised. I kept seeing that everywhere. I'm like, I'm not watching this.
I will not watch it. You will not get me to watch this. I'm not watching a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off of some stupid witch that I never even saw to begin with.
Yeah, but just if you are a fan of these movies like me, uh, be curious to see which ones are your all-time favorites, which ones maybe you didn't like. Clearly, you can't dislike Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman, meets Frankenstein, or Bottom etc. because they're just perfect movies. So everything outside of those you can but yeah, leave some comments. See, like to be interested if our one fan actually likes these movies too.
Like and subscribe, guys. Don't forget to smash that like button.
Yeah, yeah.
See if
What
we get Colin to add that annoying YouTube subscribe little graphic.
Yeah, yeah. And they put on like a costume too. The
Whoa, Mr. Beast here.
and do a segue. Do a segue. I I don't ever have to worry about getting bitten by a werewolf because I rub this lotion on my skin.
I've got NordVPN protecting my privacy. All right, I think we're.
I'm gl- but with all that being said, we've been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Dr. Daniel.
Disrespect.
Oh God, no.
I'm Craig. We'll see you next time.